Very pleased to have in the studio with us Amanda Gutterman. She's the editorial director for Slant News, crowdsourced news for millennials. She was previously the special projects editor at Huffington Post, worked for the New Yorker. Slantnews.com is the website, and you can tweet her at Amanda Gutterman, Gutterman, or at Slant News. Amanda, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So Slant News is targeted toward the millennial generation.
So people use it all over the age spectrum, but some of the folks who are most well served by Slant are people who are between 18 and 35. So what you can do with Slant is you can log in, no matter who you are. You can create a story using all kinds of multimedia. Then you can submit it, get edited by a professional digital editor who will edit your work, fact check it, and package it to perform as well as possible on social media. Then you get a link with your published story, and you share it as much as you can. We share it as much as we can, and you get 70% of the advertising revenue on your stories. So the idea is to provide a way for emerging voices, new journalists to get their foot in the door, to start building up their portfolios of professionally published work without having to take on unpaid internships or give away their work for free.
Right. And so you're paying, and what kind of, how do you track the advertising revenue? I mean, this is an interesting business model.
Yeah, so we have a tracker, and once you sign in and log in to write, you can see exactly how much money we are making off of your stories, and you just get 70% of that dumped into your bank account or by PayPal, whatever you choose.
Did you guys put this together as a for-profit venture, not-for-profit?
It's a for-profit company. We're trying to change the system in journalism right now, where there are a lot of really high-traffic, very interesting stories written by people who are being kind of artificially locked out of having a traditional platform by gatekeepers who don't really understand that that's a lot of the material that's going viral on the internet.
Right.
Much material written by college students, by graduate school journalism students, by folks who are earlier on in their journalism careers. Those people are just as capable as a lot of more experienced journalists at producing high traffic, highly interesting content online.
Right. And so that's in fact, it just popped up right for Slant. Submit a story, get professionally edited, and take home 70% of the advertising.
You should try it out. You should definitely give it a shot. We have some much more experienced folks writing for us as well.
Who are your so an actual human being is going to edit this?
An actual human being hired away from some of the best newsrooms in New York. So I'm a HuffPost alum. I brought some folks with me. Also, we have editors from the New York Daily News, from Bleacher Report, from MSNBC. These are people whose job it is not just to edit and fact check your work, but to outfit it with all of the elements that it really needs to succeed online, which really means on social media. So that means a Facebook-friendly headline. That means a really wonderful cover photo. It means things like URL construction and base names. It means search engine optimization. A lot of these elements that new voices in journalism and emerging writers don't necessarily know to do to their stories yet. So a lot of times their work becomes a needle in the haystack.
Right.
We're here to say, if the story is important, we're going to outfit it with what it needs and elevate it and make sure it actually gets traction.
How do you place it?
So we have a queue of stories coming in, and then if we think a story is really important, we'll feature it on our breaking news style homepage or on any of our vertical pages. We also can give it a huge push if we are choosing to elevate it by pushing it out on our Facebook, on our Twitter. That's kind of how we choose which stories to promote.
And then you hope that other aggregators like Alternate pick it up and that kind of thing?
I mean, not even. Our site gets over 2 million visitors per month, and we just launched in September. So we're our own source of traffic, and every day it gets more and more.
That is great. So for people from 18 to 35, your main demographic audience and source of product as well, what are the issues that are most consequential right now?
Yeah, so obviously, and we're going to talk about Paris in the wake of the attacks. Folks are talking about that. In general, student debt is a big issue in this election. Folks in their teens and 20s and early 30s are carrying unprecedented amounts of debt.
Yeah.
Something unlike what their parents or grandparents experienced, and the potential consequences on the economy and on those individuals are enormous. And they're looking for a candidate who is willing to address those policies and create policy that's in millennials' financial interest.
To the best of my knowledge, there's only one person who's doing that.
Yes. So Bernie Sanders has a lot of clout on college campuses. It looks like he's burning out of the race to actually get the Democratic nomination. But on college campuses, he has a huge following.
Yeah.
He actually has a plan to make college tuition free and to help millennials unburden themselves of this level of debt, which threatens to throw off the whole car ownership, home ownership, job market. The Goldman Sachs had a great report on the potential widespread economic consequences of ongoing millennial debt. It was very accurate. It's going to impact the whole economy. If
People
it
wait basically a half a generation to start a family, to buy a home, to get married, or whatever it may be, to really engage.
And then they'll end up passing it off to the next unless something changes. So it's really in the interest of baby boomers and folks in different voting demographics other than millennials to help this get pushed along.
Yeah. This is such a scam. I mean, student debt like this has never happened before. It's completely anathema to the American way. Abraham Lincoln created 54 or 57 free universities, land-grant colleges. Thomas Jefferson created the first free university in the United States, University of Virginia. When Reagan came in as governor, the University of California was completely free. A bunch of my friends moved from Michigan to go out there to go to college for free.
Yeah.
But even then, tuition at Michigan State University was like, $120 a semester. I mean, it was nothing.
I mean, what's going on now runs counter to so much of our history and some of our best intentions. And it was allowed to become this way because millennials don't vote. Millennials are one of the smallest voting groups actually arriving at the polls every year. And if you listen to the last GOP presidential debate, you could have called it the AARP debate. They were talking about Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the retirement age, because those are the folks who are actually coming out to the polls.
Right.
So those are the folks that they're going to create policies for. And I like to remind millennials whenever I can that one of the best tools we have at our disposal is to actually get out to the polls and have another millennial out there voting. And hopefully then, if they turn up in higher numbers, politicians will be forced to create economic policy in our interest. Even if you don't care about any of the candidates, get in there, write Donald Duck on the write-in ballot, and God, Freudian slip, write Donald Duck as a write-in ballot, and you just get in there. Even if none of the candidates move you, get to the polls.
Yeah. Well, and generally you can find a candidate who's like better than somebody who's not as good. I mean, at the very least.
Absolutely. Do your research, make that time, even if you have an hourly job that it's going to be hard to leave, even if you have a tight class schedule, plan ahead, figure out where your polling booth is.
Yeah. I was in my early 20s or late teens, actually, when the voting age was dropped down to 18. And we started voting really aggressively. I mean, we fought really hard to get that constitutional amendment in 68, 69, 70, whatever the year was.
Right, during the Vietnam War.
Yeah. And it seems like all of that steam has gone out of it. Like, why is it the millennials are not voting?
There's still the steam, but the steam isn't propelling millennials toward the voting booth. They're expressing their political activism in a different way. And I think they are just as politically active, if not more, than the generation that won the right for younger folks to vote. They're coming out to protest. Look at what's going on at Mizzou. Look at what's going on at Yale. We were just, Slant was just at Morehouse College. We were just coming up through the South. We were at Duke. We've been traveling all around the country. And what we've seen is that, students might not say that they're going to necessarily turn up at the polls in 2016, but where they are turning up is on the field of protest. Right. And they're calling the values on their campuses into question, and they're taking political action in their own way very strongly.
But if that doesn't translate into political power, it evaporates. That kind of political capital evaporates pretty quickly.
Protest is its own political capital and its own political power. If you look at some of the events that happened in Ferguson or Baltimore, those have been incredibly powerful political moments with a lot of potential to create change. I hope that millennials would use the power to assemble, the power to protest, in addition to voting, and not as a replacement. But I fear that right now it's the protest rather than the polling booth, because people don't think that they necessarily have too much impact when they go to the voting booth.
Boy, if they think that, they should look at the Koch brothers, who are willing to spend almost $1 billion to influence an election. Well, these guys are not doing it because they think elections don't matter.
That's what sends the millennials running home. They think that these elections are being bought by powerful people like the Koch brothers. They look at these election spending numbers, which are through the roof. Slant did a great interview with Lawrence Lessig about this.
Yeah.
I'd encourage anyone to look it up. He's running just on the premise of how bad campaign spending
was
running campaign spending, and learning about the super PACs, the Koch brothers, Sheldon Adelson, all the folks who are buying the election in the opinion of millennials. It sends you right back home. You feel like you can't make an impact.
Well, that's what they want. I mean, they very much, and that's the whole point of negative advertising. Negative advertising does not increase votes for the person putting forward the negative ad. It diminishes votes for the person who's the subject for it. So, it's a form of voter suppression.
It's absolutely
But the most
true.
effective form of voter suppression is despair.
It's absolutely true. But unfortunately, if we keep on having administrations that are, voted in by Sheldon Adelson and the Koch brothers, we're going to have uprisings. We're going to have student protests that are getting way bigger than these. We're going to have, things getting really out of control if people feel their vote doesn't matter and they're taking this political energy, possibly turning it into violent energy, into this whole other field.
Interesting
if
times.
They feel they have no other recourse.
Amanda Gutterman, she's the editorial director with Slant News. SlantNews.com is the website. Crowdsourced news for millennials. She was previously special projects editor with Huffington Post and wrote for the New Yorker. Slant News. To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.